Oh, hello people, and welcome back to part 5 of the Build Guide to City Skylines. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for all support last episode. You guys really enjoyed our interchange, and of course we have some naming to credit for the episode. So we have named the island here Fort Orchard after a few Candy's wonderful suggestion. And then our waterfront over here has now been named the Holy Water Front, which is perfect to tie in with the two nearby churches, of course, and of course this goes down to Exit. So thank you for all the comments and naming suggestions and lore that you guys are dropping. I'm trying to pick different people every episode so everyone gets a chance to influence the builds, but please keep them coming. It's so nice to read how much you guys are enjoying this series. But either way, we're in a new episode, so let's get on with it, shall we? So today I'd like to start introducing a cycle highway into our vanilla build very early on in the city, so it carries on throughout the rest of the city, and cycling really becomes an ingrained method of public transport as the city grows out. So that's what I'd like to do today. So I'm going to start this by actually coming back to the start of the city here where we introduced our one-way system, and I want to start breaking away a lot of these road tiles now. So we're going to sort of amend the network and reintroduce a little sort of new flow system that will help carry traffic in and around this area. So I'm going to upgrade to the 3-lane one-way with bicycle lanes here. And this will now be the start of our cycle highway from here, and as we look down it will eventually go all the way over here and amongst the rest of the city, of course. Let's delete this one as well. So I'm just going to run these parallel right up against each other for a considerable distance here. Same thing again with this one. We'll of course want to reverse that direction down, and then we'll return to where the one-way system does actually split off here. So let's come back to our 2-lane roads, and then we're going to grab a freeform tool. And I'd just like to mirror that curve against those bushes. And then hopefully just a straight connection here should see us through. And then again we'll amend that direction. And then exactly the same process here again. Just want to amend that. Let's get that one in there. And then we want that to actually come this way now. So it allows people coming this way to actually flip out onto this one-way system. We used a very similar configuration to this in Palaven, which was actually a temporary solution, but it ended up working really well. So we're going to leave this configuration here, okay? If you're wondering, it might seem a little bit weird, you might think, oh, that could be a traffic magnet. Let's just bear with it and see what happens, because I've had success with these sorts of junctions in the past in vanilla. So we'll see what happens with it. Also as well, guys, please excuse my extreme nasally voice. I am suffering with flu again. So soon after having it, so please do bear with me. My apologies if you are struggling to listen to Sick Egg. As we come in here, I'm noticing that I think I'd like to make a little bit more fuss out of this mountain. We also have a really cool idea for this mountain. When we come to build the park, I'll include the comment, but we did have a comment saying that this should be a nature reserve trail up to some viewing decks here that will eventually look out all across downtown Orchid Bay, which will be really cool. So really looking forward to getting a nature reserve on this mountain. But speaking of the mountain, I do want to do a little bit of terraforming here. So I actually want to bring the mountain a little bit closer towards my road network. So I'm just going to start doing this by creating some slopes up to this sort of top peak. So I think a lot of time people are almost afraid to design their own topography in cities. They're almost sort of locked into the mindset that you have to work with what you're given, but it's really not the case. So I'm just going to create a few little ridges and slopes here, and then a little bit of terraforming sort of here and there, just to start introducing some layers against this little highway road here, because this is going to be quite important for the design of the city, for what I want to happen here today. We're going to do some pretty fun things. Cool. So that's roughly what I'm after, right? Just a little bit of layer now, an extension of that hill top down. That doesn't look too unnatural, I don't think. I think I'm happy with that. And then we also want this road to come back through as well. So let's create a little pathway for this. Let's find our highest point, and then we'll do a little slope through here. Right, and then we want to slope sort of down and off back into this area where that road can carry on. There we go. Is that going to do me? I think that probably should. I think I'm going to be happy with that for the most part. So let's grab that 4-lane compact road that we've been using, and we'll keep this running as our sort of country mountain road. No snapping besides the angle is going to be helpful here. Okay, and then I just want this to meander through the little valley. And then it's going to come right up against this road, and we want to hit a road guideline if at all possible. Let's go for there. And then hopefully a freeform tool. with that road guideline. And then we can find a happy snap point, keep that going, and then this can meander back off now, and eventually into its own series of builds that it will be able to serve, but it's also now alongside this area, so we can use it as access. So talking about access, let's give them a highway ramp on here, okay? So I think just a little bit of, let's go on with all our snap in here actually. I just want to do just this little ramp that's going to come up the hill, and then meander into this one. Okay, so again, it's more interconnectivity, and we'll see how many people use this. Of course, once there's more things up here for them to access. Alright, but either way, this is starting to develop a theme now, which is what's most important to me, and we're starting to really highlight these new networks that are coming through the area. There is one thing actually that I would like to check before we continue, and that's going to be the topography of the flat area here. I think that's going to be okay. That's going to be fine. So I know I definitely want trams to flow through this one-way system at some point, and we do have a tram system nearby here, and it's currently operating on a one-way loop, so this seems like a perfect opportunity to actually make use of these one-way roads with tram tracks for once in a while. So let's bring this one up here, and then we can see that this one's going to want to connect into there. And then I think we can get away with this one-way tram track. Okay, so let's come into the middle, we'll do a little curve. Again, it's always fun to find an excuse to use new networks that you never usually use in cities. I often find that can be sort of the trigger for a new build inspiration, you know? Picking out a network from any of the tabs that you've never used before, and then basing a build around it, or sort of a network expansion around it, can be a really fun way to play the game. So consider that if you're also sort of playing along with the build guide. So we want that loop to go in now, and then I do actually want this tram line to run parallel with the roads and eventually into another area of the map, so we can really extend this tram system that comes out as well. We did have some great comments about the overpass as well. I think we're going to address this during our daytime time lapse, either turn it into an underpass or use a trick with terraforming, but we'll cover that in a bit. Just like so many comments and ideas that have been dropped on the channel recently, guys. I really can't express how grateful I am for it. It's yeah, you're all helping my channel to grow a ridiculous amount. it's really humbling, so thank you so much. It really means the world to me. Cool, so I'm now going to start using some content creator roads. These are from the Bridges and Piers content creator pack. Again, links are down below to Instant Gaming if you're missing it. But these are really nice roads if you haven't seen them before. They're just 2-lane, but they have like a paved sort of sidewalk on them. It's very appropriate, and I think it's going to tie into our church and queen theme that we're playing with over here. Okay, cool, so let's just sort of see exactly how we want this to sort of start lining up. Alright, so I'm going to spring a road through here. We need to delete this building as well. And I just want to start extending my new suburb off of the side of these frames that already exist. We can see where we're going to want to connect into existing one-way infrastructure, and we're also going to want to bring this tram line and one-way network down to converge with the train before that eventually moves on. Hopefully we unlock a new tile next milestone. Yes, we do. That will allow us to get here and not be quite as compressed against the tile boundary, but we should be okay for that. So I'm just looking to create these very obvious sort of blocks of suburbia that can then be zoned in. I think we're going to do a little bit of green cities here today, tie a bit of green cities into it. But there is something that I'm quite keen on sort of playing with here, and this is the idea of an elevated 2-lane European stone bridge. So this is going to be fun. So I'm going to come out with an elevation of 10 and then a single elevation point. Same thing again, 10 and then single elevation. And then I want to see if we can create a sort of fun bridge pattern here. So this can be a little bit awkward, but it usually sometimes just takes time to configure. So of course we get the pillars in the road there. So this bridge has to be 4 units high. Now let's also do a little bit of terraforming here, because I would like it to land back on flat ground here before it joins up with that road. That road might even need pushing back a little bit. So there we go. Now we can come straight across like that. That's okay. And then it's a really awkward case now of trying to position your nodes so that the pillars snap within their correct spacing. It can be very finicky, but with a little bit of patience, it can be done. You just have to be sort of trial and error-y, I think, with it is the best way to describe it. So here we go. All right, it is an absolute pain in the ass. It takes a long time to configure. This is about as good as I'm going to get it. I don't mind a little bit of overlap here with the pavement, but it's not going to get any better than that for me. But hopefully you can appreciate the aesthetic that it does indeed bring. I'm really happy with this, and perhaps we can tie this into our royal story lore that is developing around the city. Maybe because this is all kind of like old marble and sort of chiseled designs, it sort of seems a little bit royal. So maybe perhaps some sort of old royal mile sort of walk or bridge that it ties in. Again, I'll leave that up to the comments to decide exactly how that fits into the city. But I love the addition of the European stone bridge here, just as part of a network development for the city. Okay, it's very special. It's very nice. So we're also going to name our new suburb here, our new Green Cities one, after one of our wonderful Patreon subscribers, James Redwood. However, I'm just going to slightly rework it into James Redwoods, because we will have a redwood in the suburb to reflect James's wonderful Patreon support. Thank you for all the Patreon support, James. I really appreciate it, mate. You know, there really is few things as satisfying for me in cities as network expansion. Not really just doing a build, or just expanding networks and eventually trying to envision where they're going to go and how they tie up is really where a lot of fun lies in this game for me. So, speaking of that, I'm going to start bringing my cycle network one-way system into a close now, so I want road guidelines snapping on for this. Then we want to mimic the curves and the type of curve as well, whether that's freeform or curve tool. And then we want to hit the guidelines. And remember what we said all the way back at the start of the series, is that we always want these networks to be 4 tiles apart, which granted it's a little bit broken, but we are still playing with 4 tiles because we're matching the road guidelines and everything else. Alright, cool. So I know eventually that this one-way system here is going to sort of come up and over the rail as the tram splits away from it, and then eventually into the downtown. So future planning, I know maybe this one-way system probably wants to head over this way, eventually cross the river and arrive onto the coastline. So I'm just sort of looking at the bird's eye view and envisioning where eventually I want these networks to go and how effectively they're going to sort of distribute traffic to what will eventually be all the high density areas over this side of the map. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So I do get a lot of comments about planning and sort of picturing the grand scheme. I struggle with it sometimes too. It's not always an immediate vision. Sometimes it does take a little while to come together, but eventually it does. Alright. Same thing again here with the tram line. We want to make sure we're snapping to that road guideline and then come in right up through the middle. Let's go for about there. And then we want to continue straight up to there as well. I'll make a little mock tram turnaround point here so we can see the trams flowing. Cool. But either way, what we have done now is encouraged our sims to cycle right from the start of the city, okay? And we'll continue to introduce cycle lanes all across the map. So last episode I did this off camera, but we'll do this together now we're talking about cycling. So if you want to be using cycling in the city, definitely come to your city-wide policies and put encourage biking on. Of course, when the policy is active, most citizens will prefer bikes over motor vehicles. It doesn't cost you anything to do, so there's no reason why you shouldn't really use that policy. And then I think I also want to upgrade this road with trees into the one with bicycle lanes now. So then we can start to have bicycle infrastructure over this side of the city. We of course installed it last episode, where this runs all the way down the waterfront now. Don't worry as well, I am aware that these guys have garbage, just don't worry about it for right now. And then it's going to come down here at some point, isn't it? So it would be really good if we could get these 2 cycle highways to interconnect. So of course we could bring it through the roundabout over here. I don't really want cycling here. I don't really think people would cycle this close to a highway exit. I can't imagine it's the most safe thing. Not that we need to worry about that in cities, but I just don't think I want this to be cycling roundabout. But I'm not sure. I'd like your guys' opinion on that. Let me know if you think we should upgrade this roundabout into 3 lanes with cycling mode. I'd be really interested to hear your opinions. But for the time being, what I would like to do is to find a cycling mode. I wonder if we could actually do it with a tram track, couldn't we? I bet we could, you know. It's just, there's so many options now. There really is. Very, very intimidating. Like, which one do you pick? Goodness gracious. Should we go for median and cycle lanes? I feel like that's going to be a nice sort of happy median, right? And then we can perhaps have this road run directly through our new suburb, and we'll go for 20 tiles for that point to happen, so right there. So we'll cut this through the new suburb. Let's now look at extending our tram pedestrian road along. I think we're using cobblestone for this one, are we? Yes, we are. So again, this episode, I feel like it's just sort of network expansion. I hope that's entertaining. We've got so many things to do here. Okay, so I know that I want the tram to turn off and go towards an eventual train station here. So let's plan in that parallel network to feature. That will go there. And then hopefully just a simple curve tool here. Everyone's going to be tremendously happy. There we go. And then again, we'll grab our one-way roads again. Again, I think at this point, this should probably become 3-lane road now as well, just to have the extra lane within the configuration. And then we'll bring everyone up to this junction here, where we know we can connect in with our cycle road. Go to there, and then this one comes straight down into this one. And then that technically will interconnect the 2 cycle highways, so we now have cycling running essentially on the arterial casings of all this stuff over here, right? So I think that's pretty cool. It should work quite nicely. And then we can also provide a connection into here as well, and across the junction as well. If we wanted to, we could also do that, just so they can cycle across all lanes. Okay, we'll have to be careful of traffic a little bit here. This might need to be amended with just the cycle pathway, but we'll see what happens. Cool, but it is slowly piecing together now. So in terms of what I want to happen here, I think I mentioned in this video that I did want this to be a bridge, but we could tunnel it and get some nice tunnel action as well. I don't think I'm totally averse to a tunnel. Should we try sort of both together and see what we think? So that would be the option for a tunnel, which actually has a different tunnel entrance, does it? It kind of looks like it does. Or is it just wider? I'm not sure. You guys will have to let me know. And then of course the alternative is a bridge, which could look like that. So I'm happy for the elevated network. It does give us some unique detailing opportunities and also a nice layer of height within the network itself. But if as much, I do appreciate the aesthetic of the road going down in a tunnel. I'm not sure. But I think we'll definitely leave this up to you guys, because we don't actually need to decide this in today's episode because it isn't going anywhere. So let me know whether you prefer a tunnel or a bridge to get the one-way system over the rail lines. That can be your guys' decision. Alright? Cool, so now let's come back into our 2-lane European stone bridge, and I really want to start, again, just maximising some initial zonable spaces for this area. What I would like to happen here as well is to preserve a little bit of green belt around this fancy European bridge. I don't want houses all the way around it. So we can see here that we're missing 3 tiles from bridge to the back of these ones, so that's something that we can replicate by having zoning squares here. There we go, now we're perfectly equidistant. That's going to be great. And we can feed all these in. This is going to be lots of zonable space. So eventually envisioning that the train station is going to be sit here. By the way as well, thank you for all the support on totally realizing that it's massively stupid, like enormously stupid, that we unlock planes before trains in Vanilla City Skylines. That massively needs to be changed, in my opinion. That makes no sense whatsoever. Alright. Cool, so now we've kind of got 2 networks that are starting to close together, right? So why don't we see if we can do something fun here. Let's go ahead and bring in a little curve tool. Or maybe freeform is actually better for this. So we could actually just bring it up onto that guideline and then snap it in, and then repeat sort of the same thing happening here. Let's see, let's go for 10 there, and then into this one, and then straight across like that. How do I feel about that? I feel like if we can position our train station here, that's going to give us quite a nice little central point for the tram to stop here, and also we can have maybe a little green belt that comes up into the suburb here. I think that's going to be most appropriate, isn't it? So why don't we go with that sort of general idea there? Cool, that'll do. Right, let's finally start getting some zoning up. So I mentioned I do want this to be a little green cities district, so let's give it self-sufficient buildings. Fort James Redwoods. We'll also go ahead and paint the district out a little bit further. Now we know where the networks are starting to wrap up, and then we can just get some population in these areas. So let's just go ahead and zone it up. Again, if you're missing green cities, it brings in a whole bunch of new different assets and parks and policies and themes that you can play with. Green cities is definitely one of my favourite expansions if you're missing it. Cool, so I want to respect the central green belt. We'll definitely have some sort of main park here. Is there something from the part tab we could use? Maybe the Japanese garden will go nicely here. Okay, maybe 2 of them back to back. How much are they? They're not expensive, are they? No, they're only 42 weeks. I'm happy with that. And then maybe let's go for a little bit of commercial facing into this sort of central little park space here. Let's delete the houses here. Also mimic the commercial vibes. Same on all sides of it. And I'd love to see what this looks like. So I'm just thinking really organic, sort of green cities themed green belt. So we'll definitely use some vanilla dirt path for this way. Yeah, I just wanted to meander down into that one. And I think some jacarandas are really what's popping into my mind here at some point, I think. We did have a comment last episode as well about people requesting perhaps some more meadows, and I think this would be a good spot for that, right? Let's go ahead and get this down in. I do realise I am such a huge fan of my densely forested areas. I do love a thick forest, so appreciate everyone sort of giving me different ideas. It all helps break out the box, doesn't it? I think a little bit of overgrowth here, nothing serious. Just around the base of those trees. Should give us a relatively nice time, and I think a little bit of sort of sparse content creator wildhead should do a job. A little bit of long grass in there as well. You'd also have someone mention as well that you could earn a fortune living in Orchid Bay being a lawnmower because there is so much long grass. I absolutely agree. Yes, you could. You could. Okay, well, I think a little colourful meadow like that isn't too bad, is it? I don't think it is. It's not the worst thing in the world. Our tram line would have broken now, of course, as the trams can't actually turn around. So we'll correct that. I also forgot to give the James Redwoods the local and organic produce specialization, so they get the Green Cities commercial. Don't forget to do that. They do pair very nicely together. Green Cities residential and commercial. So yeah, happy for residential to be in all of these parts. Same all up here again as well. Let's satisfy that residential demand where we have it. And keep pushing towards that next milestone. Of course, we did mention that this is James Redwood, or James Redwoods. So we definitely want to include a little redwood design in here. Let's see what we have. Is there a massive difference between 1 and 2? I don't think there really is there? Can't really see that much of a difference myself. I'm not entirely sure. But I think we'll go for it, okay? We will honour James. Let's go ahead and drop in those trees, and then we'll get a little bush pattern here with that prop line tool. Okay, let's actually bring that filling down a little bit more. Let's go for our classic 3-meter fill. It's always a favourite. Does a job for us most of the time. Okay, and then we'll just have that around the base of the tree. Simple but tasteful decoration. Really does a job. I think a little bit of... I always forget the name of this one. Lantana. There we go. Maybe we need to name something Lantana in the city so we stop forgetting about it. And then farm fence as well, I think will be welcome here for the Green Cities vibe. And then we'll just box in these little redwood gardens next to our Japanese garden, right? Did they get redwoods in Japan? And they definitely get them in California. Maybe some sort of collab maybe between California and Japan with the Japanese garden. So I think it's a pretty fun and unique way to use the redwoods. I think I'm happy with that. So getting all this going in. So again, I'd like to preserve a little bit of royal history around this sort of bridge as well. I think is going to be pretty cool. So I think that our classic vanilla dirt pathways sort of looping around the arches here are going to be really cool. They're going to look nice as well. We'll hook them into as many different points as we can, increase that walkability, and I think quite a tasteful. Yes, actually, we could go for something quite landscaped here. Maybe if we go down to a small vanilla tree, and then we'll grab a sugar maple on a prop line fill, or prop line tool fill with 5 meters maybe. And how about just a row of like royal sugar maples up against the bridge? Maybe we can match them with the pillars. Would that be appropriate? So we can actually set the prop line tool to near enough match every single pillar on the bridge. Which I think I'm happy with. I think this looks pretty cool. Might be a little bit obnoxious to some, but I think I'm on board with that. Let's do the same thing from over here again as well. We'll have this one come down here. Right. And I think that's all it needs. It's a little pattern to highlight the bridge there. You got these kind of old stone pillars now. Tremendously exciting. Really interested to see if anyone starts using this 4-lane road to move around. I can't imagine they will just yet. Well, our car park's nice and busy here. Now, although the camper vans do clip the top of the car parks, that really annoys me. I hope that gets fixed, but probably unlikely now at this point. Cool, but look at this. People using the one-way system. Let's just analyse how people are moving around. So we had a much more condensed, closer node variation of this in Parliament for those that followed our old vanilla build. And it worked tremendously well, and I'm hoping the same is going to happen here. Of course, we need to realign our detail a little bit, bring the pattern together, but I do like it. I enjoy it. I actually wonder if we could force the dedicated turning lane here by having this as a highway road? Yes, we can. We remove the turn from the middle lane if we do that. That is interesting. Or they'll just carry on taking that turn anyway. So it doesn't really matter in the end, does it? Okay, alright. Whatever City Skylines, that's fine. Yes, we could have it as a highway road, I guess, if we wanted to. But, it would appear that they're just ignoring the lane directions, right? But what a fun little suburb is developing here, right? I love green cities. It's such a nicer aesthetic, isn't it? And look at all this detailing around the back of them as well. That's really nice. Much better than the vanilla housing, I hope you agree. Just nicer. Although there is some nice vanilla houses, to be fair. I do like the little villas that are growing up around here now. Splendid and tremendous. Cool. So while all this is happening, let's continue to map out some more networks. So I think I want another little bus route coming through here as well. Like I said, you know, I want this city to be so ingrained with public transport. So let's set up a new bus line here. We will add in a new stop. And then where do you want to go? So let's see where we can bring you. Probably through here. It's going to be most appropriate. We'll stop outside the shops. And then you can come through the suburb. Eventually stopping by the trams and eventual train station over here. Once we get a little bit more distance here, I will extend this bus line out because it's kind of a little bit sort of short and stubby at the minute. And then we'll have this one come down this way. That's fine by me. I do actually need to just amend the direction of this road right here. Again, don't forget your comments down below as to whether or not these networks should be sunken or elevated, but please let me know what you think of that. And then hopefully it can just come back in over here like that, okay? Do you behave any differently if you move it over to the other side? No, they do kind of a weird turnaround thing here, but it's okay, at least it's working, right? At least it is working. And then we will grab these new buses. You will become a pretty small bus, maybe this little 22 number, and we'll make it a nice little sort of green bus as well. That should hopefully come out. There it goes. Cool. So we'll let that settle into the route, see if it gets busier. Of course it will get busier as things over this side grow up and out, of course, as always. But let's continue satisfying our demands. Got a little bit more residential growing up here. Commercial as well. Definitely want to try and preserve the border between the sort of one-way network and trams and whatnot. Which should be quite fun. Should be quite fun to have a train station on a pedestrian road as well. Once this eventually unlocks, which will probably be next episode now. I don't think we're going to hit, what is it, 7,000? We might hit it this one. No, it's 9,000 trains unlock, isn't it? It's the milestone afterwards. Yeah, we're definitely not getting there today. Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening today. So before we head to a D-turn time-lapse today, I'd just like to have a little discussion and conversation about how powerful a frontage network can be to an existing network. So the frontage road is like a local road that runs parallel to a higher speed access road with limited access, which is what this is going to sort of function as. And I'm not going to use it for access here today, but what I really want to do is to try and generate some nice looking commercial themes in this area, alright? So just want lots of commercial here. And hopefully it's going to look out onto this road, which gives me such a cool aesthetic, okay? It's a really nice way of using commercial. Might sound a little underwhelming right now, but for what we have planned for this, it should be really fun. And we can definitely extend the walkability through there now, where we can see where another pedestrian crossing comes in. That's fantastic. And we will eventually have our tram looping through here as well. Although speaking of, this doesn't actually need to be tram road here anymore because the tram will now be extending down, but we'll change that during our D-turn time-lapse, of course. But otherwise, guys, I think this does feel like a good place for a detailing time-lapse. Done some significant network expansion today, tying things all together now. It just wants detailing and bringing all up. We'll also get the tram line flowing down here as well before it loops back on itself into the town centre. And then zone up all these spaces here as well, where we have these empty frames up to the existing networks. And I love these trams stopping here now. I can't wait to have the train station in here eventually. That's going to be so much fun. Oh, yes, we're looking forward to that. Can't wait to get involved with trains. Detail up the new extensions as well around the networks and generally help things settle in. Bring in some more prop and part detailing as and where we need it. Check services. How are we doing for schools? We probably need another elementary school, and we're very nearly on the threshold of needing another high school as well. So in a similar vein to all our current expansions, I'm going to draw out another school campus, this time for the other suburbs, so we continue to see these little spots of personality continue to develop within each of the suburbs as they go out. Looks like this spot here might be good for a little another school campus. So it's all things that you can factor into your suburban designs. Keep an eye on your services as you're going out, because you can always factor in another little modular sort of service design that helps improve and detail your city. But before we do start detailing, we have just had the first person drive down the new bridge here, which is fantastic news, isn't it? So we're going to see if we can wait for her to stop. There she is. And then we're going to... Oh, the dog's out as well. Dog's doing a big stretch. And then we're going to go for Lady Amanda Harris, because she just drove down the Royal Mile. Either way, let's detail and stretchy dog. Okay guys, so let's have a detailing review, shall we? So alongside our one-way system, we've introduced a little bit of amusement park fencing from the Park Life DLC. It almost has a bit of a security barrier against where the trams enter the road. And then of course some more choice, tastefully chosen commercial against a little bit of stretch of the one-way road, so we have some commercial demand. And then around the sort of gap between the suburb and the arterial frames, we have a lot of forest boundary, as you can see, which works really nicely with green cities. Just very green suburbs always blend really nicely with this sort of specific specialization. I definitely recommend picking up green cities if you don't have it. Certainly one of the better DLCs. And then a little sort of Redwood pattern has settled in now as well with all its commercial around it. Some nice car park generation in here as well, which always helps in vanilla. Then our school campus sits here with some car parking directly behind it, and then a few tennis courts across the road with some live oaks and general vanilla pathways. And that's a really cute school campus design. I love that one. Really tasteful, quite compact as well. And of course lots of park life areas and well, park assets, and of course schools as well for people living nearby. Then we come onto this network here, which has now been flanked with wild hedged and repeated linden patterns, which looks really cool. And I absolutely love this little shot right here. This is probably going to be your thumbnail today, I imagine. This is really nice. There's something that I've really enjoyed about this city, and this is the introduction of sort of network expansion with other options that we have available to us now. And we'll definitely keep this tram system going for a significant duration, at least until it perhaps meets up with a downtown tram network where we can create another tram interchange and many future builds around that. But nice to see all these networks growing out so we can keep planning our expanse. In and around the bridge, as one of the houses over there burns down, brought in lots of park fence and pathway just to create a little bit of a green belt around the Royal Bridge, which I think is pretty cool. I really like it. People cycling here now as well, and we will have a little look at the city stats. And you can see that since we've put on encourage biking and all the cycling roads, we've had an enormous spike in cyclists, and it is continuing to spike as well, which is nice. And I really love the integration of this bridge. Really simple park belt, and a pretty interesting way to fill an area. And it matches really well with all these sort of paved sidewalks in around the Green Cities area here, as our firemen put out a fire, which is nice of them. Thank you so much. And then again, more choice commercial along here as we head back towards this arterial road, where we have some more of these frontage networks that are just helping to decorate the edges of this very sort of important network. I'm really happy with these. And it's just so pleasing to look at. I absolutely love it. Different people cycling everywhere. And of course we saw that people, well, very rarely are actually now occasionally using this road. There we go. There's someone right now using it to get back onto that way there. I just realised we could actually turn this into two-way and then have another one-way loop that comes back on. But that connectivity isn't needed right now. And it's nice to see all this developing up. And then this little meadow sits perfectly now on the edge of the suburb, where I'm really looking forward to getting involved in some trains. We'll definitely have our train station sat here at the head of this little road over here, and then we can go out into the next tiles. And don't forget to let me know what you think should happen with this network. Are we going to turn it into a tunnel, or do we want it as a bridge? Bearing in mind we do have different bridge options available to us. There's a couple of different things we could do here. We can maybe turn it into that one, although it is two-way road. Or we can maybe go for a little bit of one-way industrial, which changes the vibe. So, or maybe one of the content creator ones. I don't think there's any one-way networks in that one, is there? No, you'd have to do it as two-way, but it's an option at least anyway. There is varying possibilities, so please do let me know what you guys think this network should develop as next episode. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then leave me a dislike as well. Really happy with today's expansion, and lots of fun network work to have here as well, with the integration of trams into one-way cycle roads. And it's just, having all these new networks has really expanded the possibilities in the vanilla game, and I'm really enjoying the networks in this city more than any other, I think. And there's still so many more possibilities to explore together. As always, please leave your incredibly kind comments and suggestions down below. It's been really nice reading through the hundreds of comments that have been on the channel, and thank you so much for subscribing as well. If you aren't subscribed, there is about 50% of you that watch these videos that aren't subbed. So if this is maybe your second or third video, consider subscribing, because we have a lot of City Skylines content here. Please do enjoy your cinematics of the new build as it settles into Orchid Bay, but otherwise I'll speak to you all soon. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.